And welcome back, everybody. This is the ISA Insider. My name is Max Tim.
And I am Shayna Weber. And the top headline this week of May 23rd is all about upfronts.
Upfronts. And I'm glad we're covering this because there are a lot of things about upfronts that I didn't even know. I, for the longest time, didn't even know what they were.
If you don't know what upfronts are, it was traditionally when the broadcast networks would show clips and bring in their actors for their top shows and sort of like do presentations for advertisers to try to get advertising money for commercials during those commercial breaks that we don't ever see anymore on streaming.
Yeah.
And now it's shifted.
There was a good article that kind of gave a little history to it, which I'm just going to read some of it because I'm sure some of you watching don't necessarily know what Upfronts was. I didn't know all of this, but it references the annual Dog and Pony Show, which first debuted in 1962. It was first spun by ABC, which is brilliant of them, to give automakers access to primetime commercial space to showcase new vehicles and shows slated to run in the fall. Today, it's widely associated with parties and cocktails and celebrities and things, but basically, it's for the networks to show, hey, here's our lineup in the fall, advertisers come and then buy space during those big shows. That's the very basic rundown.
Traditionally, obviously, it was for these networks where they ran commercials. And now that streaming has started booming, this is the first time in, I think, 3 years that these upfronts have been live and in person.
Right.
And now all the streaming platforms have jumped on board to do their own upfronts. And they're showcasing films and television shows as opposed to just these primetime TV shows. So the interesting thing that Max and I saw in these articles that we will put here, you can check out, is that in 2019, there was as little as 10% spent on streaming advertising from these advertisers. And now it's up closer to 50%.
50%.
So,
it's crazy. And there is a term that I didn't know, I'm learning right alongside everybody, called connected TV, which I had to read it a couple of times, like, what do you even mean by that? But apparently that's streaming. Mm-hmm. Connected TV. Linear TV is the traditional TV format. And they're saying connected TV will be accounting for 36% of total time spent with TV this year, according to Interactive Advertising Bureau. That sounded surprisingly low. What we forget as creators and writers is how much the news networks and sports own live, like regular linear TV. And that's the really interesting part about this article that we will share, and you can find it on ISA Insider. Upfronts Week had everything except new shows with sizzle. They were basically trying to just sell the advertisers what the big viewing tickets will be. And it was basically live sports. It's crazy. They didn't really give that many options for look at our new shows. Like way back when, according to the article, they were saying that they would show like hour-long, they meaning NBC would be like, look at everything we're doing this fall. Modern Family will show an entire episode of Friends, and it would be everything. And they would look at our big shows. They didn't do any of that this year, which is wild. I don't know exactly why. I think it was more of just how different the landscape is, and because how much ad buying is going toward the connected TV streaming space. But also just shows how huge the new shows are, which is scary to think about how those are the most watched shows. I don't care what side you're on, whether you're watching Tucker Carlson or Aaron Burnett or whatever. That's horrifying. Watch something else, everybody, please.
I'd even go to sports, just go to sports.
Seriously.
Jeez.
Well, a lot of people are. We wanted to use this as a top headline, mainly just to inform everybody that this is still happening. As writers and creators, we need to be aware of what the ad buys are, where that money's going, because that also informs a lot of what the networks and streamers and the major conglomerates are going to buy, which then speaks to a lot of what some of these other articles that we're talking about today, especially the one with Lee Jessup, which we can merge into. But was there anything else, Shayna, that we should be covering?
No, the only other interesting thing that I read in there that I found just sort of kind of silly, but just interesting in the way that it's shifting, is that with Netflix moving to an ad-based platform soon, these network broadcasters, like specifically NBC Universal, was sort of dogging Netflix about being ad-based when they're like, yeah, they're trying to jump in on here, but we've always had this great relationship with you, our advertisers, and that's not changing. And I just thought that was very interesting to use that against them now that they're competition in the ad space world.
It's going to be interesting to see how much of a competition they are. Obviously, they are a monster in terms of the number of subscribers, but it's also a little scary for Netflix because how many people are actually going to opt for the ad version of Netflix? I'm not going to do that. I'm frustrated when I watch Peacock and I'm trying to get through Yellowstone, which I can talk about.
No, and you're like,
and I have to even just 60 seconds where you see that little circle starting to count down. I'm like, oh my God, anything but another towel commercial or something, you know.
no, they're the same ones over and over.
Yeah, it's always the same one. Yeah, some colon cancer review. It's like, holy cow. All right.
I've never seen that one.
It's that little box. He's walking around and he's like,
I've never gotten that one.
Oh my God.
Maybe it's targeted at you.
It might be targeted to the Midwest. Yeah. Or they think I'm an older man than I actually am. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But these are things that we all need to be paying attention to. Upfronts, it's a big deal, even though it's changed quite a bit over the years. It's good to be knowing this stuff. I've never really followed the upfronts, and I should be.
When I worked at NBC, it was very much about upfronts because we were a reality TV show that was like a competition. So that's when I became aware of them, but I didn't really, I mean, I always thought it was like a party and like you bring the actors and it's like a fun, like, ooh, look at us event, but I didn't really know the specifics. So it's good to read that stuff and just learn about it.
This week in ISA Insider, we've got a couple really cool articles here. One by our favorite Lee Jessup, who is a screenwriting coach. And you found this one, so why don't you dive in?
Well, it wasn't hard to find because it was on the front page of ISA Insider, and it's answer these 3 questions about your screenplay or TV pilot. The reason I chose this one, obviously, is because what Lee is saying in this article is she met a new writer who is trying to put together a pilot, and she realized that there's these questions that we should all be asking about our projects because we are going to be asked these questions from executives, anyone, producers, anyone who, you know, these are the answers you should have always in your back pocket. So the questions are, what are the comps for your project? And I know that there's a lot of questions about, do people even ask for comps anymore? They do. People do ask for comps. So have some good current comps that are in the same world, the same genre as your project. If it's TV, keep it TV. If it's film, keep it film.
And genre too. I mean, if you're writing a fantasy TV series, you're not going to say it's like When Harry Met Sally Meets Jaws or something like that. Even though it might have elements of that, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't match. Obviously, that's a horrible example, but first thing that came into my head. There's also a tonal reference. Like I like comps when you're saying, you know, the tension and scares of, you know, Insidious meets this emotional tone in this movie. And then it's much more specific to just the whole project of The Purge. You know, what does that mean?
Or you could say something like, it's a woman in peril revenge thriller, like Promising Young Woman, for an older audience or something like that. Right. You know what I mean? Like you can work those. It doesn't have to be blankety blank meets blankety blank, and you don't have to be stuck in those categories. You can talk about tone comps. You can talk about genre comps. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways to go. Just know some known projects that you can reference.
Keep them current.
Yeah.
Don't go back to 1984 or something, because some of the people, especially executives today, who are just getting younger and younger, they may not have seen the movie. Also, the likelihood of selling a pitch based on a comp or two, it's like null and void. It doesn't really happen that way unless you're already an extremely established writer and you have some major A-lister attached to it, which we'll get to in a separate little section here. But yeah, anyway, going on to the next one.
Right. And then the second one is, who is your audience? That's a really big one. And you definitely don't want to fumble at that. You want to know if you're a 4-quadrant movie, if you are an over 70 audience, if you are a teen audience, if you're, you definitely want to know that and be very confident in that answer.
I think this is directly related to the Upfronts news that we were talking about.
Mm.
If there's a way to figure out who is buying ad space on certain networks or, global, Paramount Global, whatever. I don't know if they share all those details, but if you can figure out what their typical marketing, avenue is, who they're trying to be making shows for, usually it's pretty easy. You can just see the types of shows. Then you can start thinking, well, this is like she's saying, where does it live? That's what she means. Like, what network would take this? And she does mention that somebody's a while back said it could live anywhere from ABC to HBO, and she's like, no, it doesn't happen that way. It's got to be a little bit more specific.
And then the last one is, what is your tone? And I think that that's a really big question that some people don't quite understand what tone means. So Max, Mr. Educator, what does tone mean?
An audience's expectation of an emotional reaction. So if it's a comedy, keep it a comedy. If it's a horror and there's eventually comedy, then that needs to be a regular kind of beat that you're hitting. You can't expect an audience, and you as people watching anything, you already know this. Like it was like my review and reaction to Outer Range. You have this really serious, dramatic show, and then suddenly two people just wildly making out and then singing American Idol style, save the best for last. It's like, wait a minute. So it's your own emotional reaction as an audience member watching something, and then the expectation of it. Because once you start jumping ship to other tonal references, it just doesn't make sense. But also, I read a script recently, and I don't want to say exactly what it's about because I don't want to, say anything negative specifically. But there was a particular script that was so-called marketed for a particular type of audience, and so I went in and having this expectation for an age range. I think that's the important thing. And then a lot of the characters were dropping like F-bombs. And so even that is a tonal reference, because I was expecting this it was probably like a younger than YA audience. This is a 6 to 11, 6 to 15 type of, and suddenly they're dropping F-bomb a lot. And that just didn't make sense. So that is Lee Jessup, and answer these 3 questions about your screenplay or TV pilot.
And that is on the ISA Insider homepage. And also you can check out Lee Jessup's website for oodles of other blog posts that she puts up. She's amazing. So go check out her site as well.
LeeJessup.com. She is awesome. But then there was another article here, Ask the Coach how to find a showrunner.
This is in Script Magazine on the ISA Insider page. And it's Ask the Coach. How do I find a showrunner? And I chose this question because I feel like there's a lot of writers out there who have decided that they're going to write their TV pilots. And that's because there's just tons of streaming and there's tons of shows and everyone's doing TV shows now. And it's always, I'm going to write my pilot, I'm going to get a showrunner, or I'm going to be the showrunner. And then we're off to the races, right? And I just thought this article was great and full of actual practical information of expectations, I think, in terms of once you have that, even the pilot idea or you've written it, what to expect on that path, because that question, unfortunately, is not really that realistic. Of saying, okay, here's my pilot, how do I find a showrunner? Yeah,
and that's what she's quoting in the article, saying, I quote unquote from the writer asking this question, I have a solid idea for a TV series. Emphasis in that portion of the sentence, idea. I have a solid idea for a TV series, but I need help to execute it. I'm already cringing. Where do I go to meet up with a showrunner who'd be open to helping a somewhat newish writer? So, and the coach is being very optimistic and positive in the response. This is an intriguing question, though I'm not sure it's the right question to be asking. It's a very nice way of saying that. I think it's important to see like the negative reactions to things and the pessimism from an extreme circumstance or viewpoint at first, to then meet in the middle and go, okay, what you really need to do is let's just manage our expectations here.
Yeah.
The nice thing is, I will say, Shana, and maybe you've noticed this too, but since we basically both started with the ISA roughly the same time, I think. I think I'm going on my 7th year. How long?
Oh man, I'm only at 3.
Oh, I don't know, you seem like you're a veteran with us. But I guess I'll speak for myself. I've noticed since first beginning with the ISA members and to now, the naivete has lessened a lot, like tremendously. Whether that's because of our own, educational resources or not. It's helped to just put the truth out there. Be like, look, yes, it's possible to sell your show, but the possibilities are, maybe only a little bit better than winning the lottery. No, I don't. It's not that far off. But
it's a path in TV.
Yeah.
You have to understand that you're not just going to jump in and get your show made, because showrunners are also writers. And they've gotten to this level and they're making their own shows and they have their own things that they're pitching. They don't necessarily need your show. So that's the thing. It's like, if you want to be a TV writer, follow the path of being a TV writer and continue honing your craft and just have a really, really amazing pilot.
Yeah.
Get those jobs, work your way up to a point where you do have some clout and you do have some power in the TV world, and then you can go make your own stuff. But don't expect that first pilot that you're writing, it may be brilliant, but it's very difficult to actually get it made. But if you keep pushing, who knows? I mean, it's happened.
It's totally happened. And with our production company, we have TV shows by writers who have never had anything, sold or produced, and we're trying to just sell those projects out. So I mean, it does happen.
Yes.
But showing your own personal experience and clout, first and foremost, is going to help you just get work. And I think that's ultimately what a lot of writers don't always remember. They see the script as the product, and then here's the product, please buy the product, as opposed to I'm the product.
Right.
Look, this is an example of what I can do. Fine. If, like, in my opinion, if the show doesn't sell, but it gets you work elsewhere, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And I think we, myself included, don't think that, as often as we should.
Yeah. Use it as an opportunity. It's like your calling card of saying, here's part of what I can offer. Yeah. That's a really great way to look at it.
There are references from other professionals giving answers to this same question. And one of them is Neil Landau, who we are also having an event with. Yeah.
It's amazing how they all tie together like that, right?
Can you tell us about the event?
Oh, that's what you want me to do right now? That was the cue.
I was trying to be.
Okay, so coming up on June 1st, we are doing an event with Neil Landau, who is an amazing screenwriter himself. He wrote Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, which is a classic, and it's getting rebooted, currently about to start shooting. He has the second edition of his awesome book, The TV Showrunner's Roadmap. And we are going to dive into that book and talk about all the changes that are happening in the global world of television. And it's just great. The book is great. I just read it, and it's just full of current information. And he interviews current showrunners who are making all the big shows right now. So it's chock full of information. He's wonderful. You guys don't want to miss it. It's June 1st. Go to our events page and register. And there's also a code on there for 20% off of his book.
That's going to be a lot of inside information. That's cool.
Yeah. And he's so generous to give his time and information like that to us.
Great.
So
that's great. Moving into what are we watching? I need to see Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers.
Oh my God. So we watched it yesterday morning, I think. Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. It's the new movie on Disney Plus, made by
Andy Samberg.
Yes, Andy Samberg. Yeah. So he's the voice of Dale, I believe. And it's made from him, and it's hilarious, and it's for kids, but there's so many references that are actually for like our generation of parents or non-parents. It's just really funny. It's like Chip is normal. He's like the old school character, and Dale got the CGI treatment done.
Yeah, right. I saw that.
So it's like two styles, and it's really fun. I mean, I laughed at stupid stuff, and my kids like, why is that funny? Like one part, Seth Rogen plays this Viking guy, and he shows up in this weird little world that they go in, and they're like, what? Is he looking at me? Is he looking at you? I can't tell where he's looking. He's got those Polar Express eyes. And it was just funny. So I was like, I got that joke.
I will absolutely watch that. Oh my God.
It's really funny. And then I also watched the fictionalized series of The the first episode.
Yeah, tell me
I've seen
about
the
it.
documentary.
I love. I don't know what the story is.
So it's the story of I believe it was Michael Peterson. He was the author whose wife died in a mysterious accident or murder, where she was found at the bottom of her staircase.
Right.
And I think he was charged with murder. I'm not quite positive, but it's sort of unraveling that. And if you've seen the documentary series of this, and I don't want to give it away, but if you look it up, I mean, it's kind of known. There's this theory about what actually happened to her. And I'm going to keep watching because I actually want to see if the series gets into that theory, rather than just sort of their like drama and like what happened or whatever. But I don't know if do you know the theory?
No, is it like supernatural or anything? Or?
No, but it's wild. So the theory, and I believe it. I went into the Reddit like thing. So the theory is that when she was walking into the house, an owl attacked her head, and she was running away from it. And she ran up the stairs and hit herself on the edge of the staircase, and then tried to go up and then fell down and bled out from her injuries on that.
Where?
Because she has lacerations on the top of her head, but no skull fractures. And they found like little pieces of stuff in her hair.
What the?
Like twig and like, I know. And it's almost wild enough that you're like, could this be real? So I'm watching the series to see if they explore that.
Okay. I love Colin Firth and Toni Collette. I mean, that's one of the only reasons I would, consider watching it, just because I didn't know what it's about at all. I'm like, oh, I like them,
Yeah. No, it's interesting. But I think the true stuff is more interesting. And then the other thing I watched the first episode of Angelyne, which is based on this woman. If you don't live in LA, she drives around in a pink Corvette. She's been around since the 80s. She has herself on billboards and stuff, and she's sort of an iconic figure. And so Emmy Rossum plays Angelyne, and it's sort of telling
That's Emmy Rossum. No way.
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
Those are some massively fake boobs that she has.
Yes, and she is fantastic. I mean, you can tell she really dedicated a lot of energy and time and prosthetics to this role. But she's amazing. The pilot is fun. I'm going to watch more because I really want to see where they're going with it. Because it seems like they're playing it sort of like it's her as an older Angelyne going, well, that's not true. This is how it really was, versus sort of like what other people are saying. So they're kind of meshing those two together of like the real stories somewhere in between, Yeah,
because I never heard that there was like some wild story necessarily that came along with her. It was just she is the story, and her life and what she did is so interesting.
Well, she never wanted anyone to know her actual identity or her past or anything. She never wanted anyone to figure that out. So, and like her path to becoming this famous icon, she didn't want that to come out. So I believe there was an LA Times article in the 90s or early 2000s that that's the IP that this is pulled from. So yeah. So I don't think she's super happy with the show, but I don't think she's super happy with anyone knowing anything about her.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's odd because she was all about self-promotion. Like that was the whole thing.
But I get it. Like, how actors don't really want you to know their personal lives.
Okay.
And they want to stay that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I used to
What are you watching?
Well, the reason I'm wearing this, you know what it says?
Say when?
You know who that is? That's Doc Holliday from Tombstone.
Okay.
It's the only Western themed anything I own. And I've finished 1883, and I was absolutely in love with every second of it. Absolutely loved every second of it. I can understand why it wouldn't be for some people. It is pretty slow at times, but the writing is gorgeous. This young actress, Isabel May, who plays the lead, is just like stunning in every way. And I don't mean like just physically, like she just nailed it. But then Sam Elliott, and then Tim McGraw was so good. Like I couldn't believe he was so good. And Faith Hill was great. So that was awesome. But then I'm trying to continue Yellowstone, 5 episodes in, and I'm still seriously wondering why the hell I care about this show.
Yeah.
I'm really frustrated by it. Everybody keeps saying, keep watching. You've got 4 seasons. And I'm like, 4 seasons of this?
Like,
same writer, same everything. So it's difficult. I love Taylor Sheridan. He's so talented, but Yellowstone has yet to grip me.
Did you know that they're making the next one, which is like 1936
2
or
more.
something?
They're doing a 1932 with Harrison
With
Ford.
Harrison Ford and and what's her and Helen Mirren.
Oh yeah, Helen. Yeah.
My God.
I know. Huge. He's just cashing in on this because there's a fourth one that was just announced also. That's another spinoff. Maybe it's like 1971. I don't know. But anyway, that was pretty much all I was watching. I watched a really bad Ghost Adventure spinoff. I know these guys talk about cash a little bit, but that's about it. I haven't really watched anything new. We would love to know what you're watching. Please comment. If you're watching this on the ISA Insiders, pro tips page, jump over to YouTube, put a comment in there. We'd love to hear what you're watching.
Yeah.
And maybe you completely disagree with my opinion of Yellowstone. So many people do. So many people love that show.
Yeah, give us some insight because I feel the same way. I'm about 5 or 6 in, and I'm like, do I keep watching it? So tell us why we should keep watching it. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like this is what I have to do.
Don't give us spoilers, but tell us why.
I'm going to do a Max Reacts or a reaction video review or whatever of 1883 and Yellowstone, comparing the two. And I don't even think this is that hard lined. I shouldn't have to wait 6 episodes for something to start pulling me in. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to get me quick, man, because how many shows are there? I've heard Better Things is amazing. I've heard Staircase. Obviously, there's now a show called Night Sky that's supposed to be on. There's so many shows. Mm-hmm. I got to wait 6 episodes for you to pull me in. No, come on.
And Stranger Things starts this week.
Oh my God, Stranger Things.
So those are like mega movie episodes. So that's what we'll be talking about next week.
We absolutely will be, because I'm not doing anything or going anywhere for Memorial Day weekend. So I'm watching Stranger Things.
Me too. All right. Next week, it's all about Stranger Things.
Yeah, baby. All right. So useful links, resources. So we've got a really cool thing happening here with Blacklist, Redford Center, and CAA Foundation.
Yeah. So they have just announced I believe it's the 2nd iteration of the NRDC Climate Storytelling Fellowship. And they are partnering, obviously, like Max just said, the Natural Resources Defense Council, Rewrite the Future program, the Redford Center, the CAA Foundation. And this is a fellowship that will grant $20,000 each to 3 writers whose feature screenplay or pilot script reflects the climate crisis in a compelling, realistic, and thoughtful way.
20 grand, man. Plus housing or something. There was an additional something in there to pay for their housing or rent or something.
That's amazing. And what a great, like, if you're looking for a way in and you have a project like this, I mean, enter.
Great. The Blacklist website. So you just go over there. I'm sure they'll have links available. You can read about how to apply. But I think it closes. Application.
I think it closes in November
30th. So you got plenty of time.
Yeah. So enter.
Some interesting little questions on Twitter.
So I've seen this type of question or like comment on Twitter a bunch. So we are putting this question out there. I'm going to put it like how it's said on Twitter. Like, I'm a writer, not a graphic designer. Why do producers expect me to have pitch decks? That's how I feel like Twitter is like,
sounded exactly. I'm sure that's how they sound.
I don't think you have to be a graphic designer to make a pitch deck. I understand that it's a skill set, but unfortunately, you can put together a pitch deck. You can take a photo and put it with your text and create a document. I mean, it doesn't have to be some insanely like graphic designery fantastical thing. It just has to present visually what you've written. So I think ultimately, if you want to be current with the times, you got to suck it up and learn how to do it.
I mean, why do producers expect me to have pitch decks? It's because they don't want to read the amount of material that's constantly being submitted to them. And not because they just don't want to read, it's because they have a mountain of other work, like current work that's actually paying the bills that they have to finish. And then they're going to also spend time reading new submissions to them from a friend, from a referral from wherever, a contest or whatever, or a cold outreach email or something. And so they're trying to save their time. They're also trying to save your time, because if they're going to look through a pitch deck quickly, they're going to scroll through what's the tone, what's the log line, basic synopsis. They're going to know whether or not it's for them. Mm-hmm. So it's not really a judgment on you or your writing ability. They need to look at it as a marketing piece, a piece of business first. Then they can dive in and go, well, actually, this is a pretty cool hook. Let's see what the writing's like. The pitch deck is used just to get their interest.
Creating a pitch deck even for yourself, and pulling photos and visual aids from movies or TV shows that match tone wise, it actually helps you in your verbal pitch, because it really does help you get everything collectively sort of in one zone. So you can really figure out, what are my comps? Why did I make this? Visually, what does it look like? How do I make my page synopsis shorter and tighter? What do I write about my characters that's like not in the synopsis, that's different than the synopsis? There's just things in there that will really help you with your pitch.
You have to also remember that you're building out a full property. This is if it's, especially if it's original IP, meaning this is your own creation, it's not based on anything. You've got to build it out as if this is a full entity. It's a full monster that can sell. So why do you need pitch decks? Because you just do. Moving on to the good news of the week. How screenwriters are flexing their muscles to find a new way to control the script. Really interesting article that we need to take with a grain of salt, please, if and when you read it. Because why?
Because the spec writers they're talking about in this article are huge.
Yeah, they're some of the biggest writers in town. And so that's why they're getting these huge $100 million, $200 million deals. They're getting seven-figure, payments just for themselves. I think most writers out there understand, if you have not had anything produced, you're not going to get that kind of money. But a lot of the article is talking about how in these huge comic book movies, there was one that said, I'm going to read some of the article here. High-profile comic book movie set to debut next year recently had its final script submitted to the WGA for screenwriting credit. Insiders tell Deadline, because we're on deadline.com, that 45 writers had some form of an involvement in the script at various stages. That's ridiculous. So basically what that project was saying, writers don't matter. Everybody is a writer on this project. But that's what the article is also talking about, is how writers are trying to flip the script and take more control over their IP, their own project. And the other bit of good news is that all these major companies, streamers, et cetera, like one of these agents is saying, it's quoted here in the article saying, we have these big buyers with these huge homes and no furniture. At one point, we were just filling their shelves. Writers are now giving them the furniture, and writers are owning up to that. And we need the A-listers to first own up to it. So like you were saying, Shana, for it to trickle down.
Yeah, I think that even though we're talking about these huge high level writers who have agents and can attach talent and all of that, they're still doing something great, because when it comes down to the lower level writers who are working their way up or trying to sell their movie on spec, it helps because you do, trickle down, you get some more leverage in terms of like making sure that you have rewrites, that your script isn't going to go to somebody else to be rewritten and you lose your credit. All these, that you can attach yourself as a producer if you do find talent. All of these things are building now with these higher level to come down to us writers down here,
low
in
level,
the real world, to help us gain that confidence and that ability to go out and protect ourselves and get the credits that we deserve.
I mean, a huge caveat here in this article is that these major projects like Emancipation is a TV project that sold to Apple for more than 100 million, but it had Will Smith attached and Antoine Fuqua directing. I mean, sure, of course it's going to sell. It's still a staggering amount of money. And I don't know how Apple can then mathematically go, it equates to this amount of profit. Like, it's still, the whole streaming thing is weird. Obviously they know. Like, you could read the article and be really excited and go, oh my God, the spec market is back. But you kind of have to have the asterisk, like a really big asterisk saying the spec market is back if you have Will Smith and Antoine Fuqua attached to your project. Some form of an A-list attachment is going to get you there. I'm going to go watch.
We'll see you guys. You're going to go watch Rescue Rangers right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to go watch Rescue Rangers? I love it.
Yep.
Do it. You'll love it. You'll be laughing a lot.
Yep. All right, everybody.
It's worth it.
Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy your weekend, Shana. I'll see you in a week.
Have a great Memorial Day weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time.